before. I think, not sure if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, maybe even before. I think we learned to edit it, Sicha, of this talk. Let's bring up the text. Okay. This is a talk from the Rebbe of the year Taf Shin Tez Zayin. So it's 1967 on Parshas Eikev, and that year was Chaf Av, and Chaf Av, of course, is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's father, Harav Levi Yitzchak. Okay, so this is V'siyata D'Shmaya Sicha Shabbos Parshas Eikev. This is the Sicha of the talk of the Fabrengen the Rebbe from Shabbos Eikev, 20th of Menachem Av, Tafshin Tazai 1956. Sedra Zu, this parsha, meaning Parshas Eikev, He Achas Mi Shivah D'Nechemta. It's one of the 7 parshas of Nechama, of consolation. That means after Tisha B'Av, we have the 7 parshas of Eschanan, of Eikev, Re'ei, and Shoftim, Kiseitze, Kisavoy, Nitzam Vayelech sometimes, is that we read about, and the Haftaros of each one of these parshas are Haftaros of Nechama, of consolation for the destruction from Yeshaya Navi, Yeshaya, Isaiah the prophet. So Eikev is the second one. Eschanan is the first parsha of Nechama, meaning we have Nachmu Ami, and then the second parsha is the Haftarah of Eikev. So here the Rebbe points out, it's not only maybe as what people seem to think, that the parsha is a parsha, and the Haftarah itself is the Haftarah of Nechama, but it's not really connected to the parsha. And there's even such an idea that the Rambam alludes to, that when the Rambam lists the different Haftarahs, he mentions that there's possibly different Haftarahs for the weeks in the summer after Tisha B'Av, but we have the custom to do the 7 parshas of Nechama. But the Rebbe says, nevertheless, it surely has to do with the parsha of why we read these Haftarahs specifically in these parshas. Gam Kol HaSedrus, we have to know that the whole parsha is a parsha of Nechama, of consolation. Ki Haftarah heim berumba me'ein parsha, because traditionally the Haftarah has to be connected most of the time with the content of the parsha, with the message of the parsha we find in the Haftarah. Even if there's going to be, even though sometimes we have a reason to change that, whether it's a Shabbos or Chodesh or the 4 weeks of Adar or Chanukah, etc. But the fact is, the Rebbe says you have to find that that's a tone of the parsha. And because the Haftarah talks about what's just a Nechama, it's not just a Nechama, a consolation for the destruction, but also Nechama to tell you that how are you going to find true Nechama consolation is because there's going to be a redemption to this Geulah, to this exile. So we have to find the message of redemption in the parsha itself, in Parshas Eikev. This is a very famous Sicha edited by the Rebbe in volume 2 of the Rebbe's Likutei Sichos. The Rebbe says truly, it's not just that these specific parshas are talking about or teaching us or alluding to the concept of redemption. The whole Torah is about redemption. Why? Because the Gemara teaches us that what's true freedom, what's the true definition of a person of freedom, is a person who studies Torah. Because when a person studies Torah, a person's soul is freed from the exile of the body and the animalistic soul. And when the soul redeems itself, and with it the body and the animal soul, from its own personal Geulah exile, through that it takes out the whole person of the exile. So the Rebbe says, if the whole idea of Torah is to free a person, so why are we saying this specifically the parshas of the summer after Tisha B'Av are parshas that talk about Geulah? The whole Torah is Geulah's redemption. So the Rebbe says ideas like this because the Torah, the studying Torah in general, there's many laws. The law of Shar Shanagah Chasapara. Open up the Gemara, the Talmud, the Mishnah. There's many laws. So the studying, the studying is a topic, and the topic is whatever the topic is. And because it's Torah, Torah brings redemption, brings chayr and freedom. Aval b'sidrus the Shivah D'Nechemta. When we're talking about the Shabbosim, the Parshas of the 7 weeks of Nechama, is miduber oides Geulah atzmai. It's not you studying Torah and the Torah's remedy is going to bring redemption, shichrur, freedom for the person, and through that a total redemption. But the actual subject itself is about redemption. Why? Given shenim saimata b'galus, because we're finding ourselves in galus. So how do we talk to a person? That a person is to know about redemption, you have to first know what galus is. How do you define exile? First, we have to explain what is the exile? How do we define it? How do we identify a situation of exile? Know what was the cause of this exile, and then we can know how to get to redemption. How could you know redemption is without defining what galus is, what exile is, and surely how to get out of it if you don't know what the problem is? Because it's only when a person knows the cause of the exile. What defines exile? And then what was the cause for this exile? Then you could fix the problem, the cause. Because when you fix the problem, automatically the outcome is also fixed. The cause is fixed by the effect is fixed by changing the cause. That's how you come to redemption. So redemption is not running away. Redemption is finding the problem, first identifying the problem, realizing what it is, and fixing it. And when you fix it, you're no longer in Geulah, right? You can't ignore a broken engine in the car. When you realize what's broken, you fix it, and it's no longer broken. The Rebbe gives an example. If someone's, God forbid, physically sick, when the person knows that they're sick, what is the cause of this illness? You know what's wrong with you. Then you go to the doctor. Because why would you go to the doctor? Because you know that you're sick. And then you can know how to describe how you're feeling and what you think you have to the doctor. You realize what's wrong. If a person feels that they have strep, you can identify the problem. You go to the doctor, you need a prescription for penicillin. The doctor can know now, and of course take a culture to make sure that's what the problem is. And then the doctor can give the medicine so a person should find its cureness. When a person first knows that they're sick, and what is the thing that you're sick with, God forbid, the knowledge itself of knowing to identify that you're not feeling well. And what it is that you're not feeling well with is it's half of the healing. Because some people could be in a situation they don't even know they're sick, or if they know that they're sick, they can't identify what the problem is. So the fact that you know that you're sick, a person knows that they're sick and knows what the problem is, it's already half of half the issues are away. And then with the right time, you get to the other half, which is part of the gam, you'll be totally cured, God willing. So the same thing applies to Gullus. First, you have to know you're in Gullus. This is exile. And what is the definition of it? And what is the cause of it? Then you're already halfway there to getting the redemption from it. Is maschila kfar hagula. The very fact that you know that you're in a situation of Gullus is just like the person who's sick. To be able to properly identify and acknowledge that you're not feeling well. It's already you're on the path of healing. So too, when a person recognizes that you're in a situation of Gullus, if you don't know you're in Gullus, how are you supposed to know how to get out of the Gullus? How are you going to make changes of why you're in Gullus? So to get to Geulah, to get to redemption. When you know what the Gullus is, how do you define it? Then you can try to see, okay, what can I do to heal it? And to get out of it. To the land of good and plenty. When the Jewish people entered the land of goodness and plenty, the first time, i.e. with Joshua, the path there took them through the big desert. Only when they left the desert, they went into Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe says, that we have to always know that stories that we read in the Torah is not once upon a time. A story that happens in the Torah is, if it's a Maisa Avos, if it's a story that happens to our fathers, is a siman, a sign of what's happening to the banim, to the children. So we could learn from if a person doesn't know that they're in Galus, that you go through a midbar before you get to Geulah, you go through a desert before you get to redemption, and then you look at the midbar, and say, what defines the desert as a Galus? You could look at the story of Eikev, of Parshas, Eikev describes it, and the story of our fathers, and say, oh, this is my Galus. This is what I'm experiencing. Right? A person says, oh, I had the same thing. This is what I'm experiencing, and this is how you fix it, and this is how you warn that you shouldn't fall into it. So when we look into what the Torah tells us about this desert, how the Jewish people are before they go into Eretz Yisrael then and now. It's a sign. So we know from this that the same too applies to this Galus that we are in now. We're now in the desert. We're in the same desert the Jewish people were then. And when we can identify and understand the situation of what defined the desert then, it gives us an understanding of where we're holding today. And then through that we will know how could we warn for it, and how could we correct the problem. Okay, so that is an opening idea. So Rebbe says, Besedras of this Parshas Eikev, Betur Achas Shivah D'Nechemta, as one of the Parshas that gives Nechama consolation to Bnei Yisrael. Misupra Oidus and Midbar, it describes what the Midbar is like. Apasik Mitars and Midbar B'Shem. So here the Rebbe is going to go into this wonderful, wonderful talk. Again, edited in the Rebbe's Likutei Sichas Parshas Eikev, but volume 2. It's already translated in Hebrew and English. The Rebbe says like this: the Torah says like this: "B'midbar hagadol," that the Jewish people were in a great desert. V'hanoira, noira is from the word awesome or fearful. Nachash, a place that there's snakes. Saraf, a place that has in it serpents. Akrav, a place that has in it scorpions. Vitzimayin, a place that a person's thirsty. Asher ein mayim, that there's no water. Okay, the Rebbe is going to break this pasuk up and show how each one of the descriptions, seemingly it's just a statement about the desert, which is an obvious statement about a desert. A desert is a big wilderness that's awesome. You get overwhelmed. That has in it, of course, snakes, scorpions, and serpents. And it's a place that if you're thirsty and you don't have water, you're in trouble, right? Because it's a hot desert. The Rebbe is going to show how each one of those descriptions is how a person slowly descends into Galus. The Hainu Pratim Shanim, these are details, Oidus HaMidbar. With regard to the desert, and this also we can understand that although we may not lift, some of us may not go on our knees and pick up sand, but we're in the desert. So when we understand what the definition of a galus is and how we got there, it's already consolation. Because the knowledge itself, now we know what we have to do. We have to be careful for. How do we walk this backwards? To get out of this galus and to go to the land of plenty. What is the Rebbe starts? What is a desert? And what's a midbar? Midbar hu makim she'einu mushav l'adam. By definition, the Torah says that a desert is a place that people don't belong there. Adam is a person, right? A person doesn't belong in the desert. I'm not talking about Bedouins who live in the desert, but traditionally people don't live in the desert. And if you want to live in the desert, you have to build the desert in a way that's no longer a desert. So the Torah says this is a great desert. When you're talking about a desert, that's not a place for people. It's not a place for people to live. The desert, the wilderness, is greater than the settled places. You have these mass wildernesses, and you have small cities around them. Adam kaya b'nei Yisrael atem krim Adam. What we learned in Sanhedrin? When the pasuk says Adam, it's talking about the Jewish people. Adam, you, the Jewish people, krim Adam. You're called Adam. Kefishim evar hashlaz, the Holy Shalaz says, she'adam hu milashon adam l'elyon. The word Adam means as if. A person is as if the Eibishter. Elyon means the one above. B'nei Yisrael heim doimim l'adam elyon shal kisei. The Jewish people are like Hashem, Adam Elyon, which is the description of Yecheskel in the image of the chariot, with that sitting on the chair, on the throne. So what's the Midbar Gadol? What's this great desert, this great wilderness? That's not a place for Adam, not a place for Jewish people. A place where a Jew feels comfortable. Like you say, this is a place for a Jew. It's much smaller than the great wilderness out there. That's not a place for a Jew. The Jewish people are the minority. So says clearly the Torah. Atem hamiyat mikol amim. You're not a majority. Not because you're the majority, God loves you. On the contrary, you're the minority. And in the Jews themselves, if a person chooses Bezras Hashem to be a God-fearing, Torah-keeping Jew, if you can properly keep Torah mitzvahs the way the Torah says you should, unfortunately, now the Rebbe says temporarily, you're the minority of the minority. So when a person looks at themselves, knowing that the Torah says that we are a minority, we're a small group of people, and especially if you want to keep Torah mitzvahs, this group gets smaller. And you look around the world where everyone else is, you see midbar godly, you see a great wilderness. So the Rebbe says the first pivot of a descent into Geulah, Shemimena Maschel Inin Nagos, that the Geulah starts from, he is Shemachshivim es ha'olam shesaviv Gadol Yosem Mimenu. When you say, yes, the wilderness is out there, but when you give the wilderness the name the Great Wilderness, and by saying the Great Wilderness, you say, look how great it is, it's much greater than where I am. It starts to create a feeling of overwhelmingness. Machshivim as a yishuv Yehudim v'yadis, then you look at yourself as a Jew and Judaism. L'makom katan, this is such a small place in this great wilderness. And you look at the world, the desert of the nations. L'makom gadol davar gadol yosem b'nei Yisrael. As soon as you start looking at, I'm in a small place, as a Torah observant Jew, and the world out there is a great place, and you're feeling small to the great place, that's the first pivot into Geulah. Ha'emesi, the Rebbe says the truth is, the truth is, there's nothing that could rule over the Jewish people. Adrab, on the contrary, there's the fact that a person looks at the desert as a big and I'm small is a false definition. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing that could rule over the Jewish people. Everything's nullified to the Jewish people. The Haftarah itself, in Parshas Eikev says, the kings and ministers are of service. When the person sees Shem Hashem, the name of the godliness and the Jew, it gives fear. So why are you feeling that the world's big and you're small? And that's Tefillin Shebarosh. That's talking about the Tefillin. What does it say inside the Tefillin? Hear, O Israel, God our Lord, God is one. I mean, that's not just Tefillin, a box that's on your head, but it permeates who you are. And your mind is permeated with the idea and the knowledge that God is the Baal Abasa Yechida Kol. God rules the world. It's God's world. No one's going to dictate to you what to do. If Hashem says you have to do something, that's what you have to do. If you really feel that, then it's going to give off that feeling. And it's going to give off a level of fear as opposed to feeling overwhelmed by the great desert. The size of the desert doesn't matter to you because God is who decides how things are. And you don't get overwhelmed and say, well, the world says so, what could I do? Kulam is batim. All the seemingly great numbers nullify themselves. Here the Rebbe says a very powerful story of the Rebbe Marash, a famous story, we learned this before. Kvoi Kedushas Ad Marash, the Rebbe Marash, which is the fourth Rebbe Chabad, Shmuel Shnerson, the Rebbe Rab Shmuel Shnerson, is Hutzrach Pam Linisai L'Chutzlaretz. He once had to leave town. Chutzlaretz means out of the area of Lubavitch where he lived. He lived in Lubavitch. The Rebbe lived in Lubavitch. V'nasim Lubavitch La'iras Mucha, so he would have to leave from Lubavitch to the larger city nearby. So to travel, Friedrich the Rebbe Marash would travel a lot, and he would travel even to places like France, in Europe. So how would he go? He'd go, you have to take the train. And the train stop wasn't in Lubavitch, it was a small village. So the train stop was in a city next to Lubavitch. And Mitzad Siba, he's Acher Admar Maharash, the Regev Laigia Bisman. The Rebbe Marash got delayed, and he missed he came late to the train. Barakevet Yotzai the Darka. So the train left without him, but they knew the train knew that he's coming because he sent the message, I'm coming. The conductor who was in charge of the train station and the train, knowing that the Rebbe Marash is coming, and in theory he should have waited for the Rebbe, who was an important citizen, as the Lubavitcher Rebbeim had a status as a respectable citizen of the Tsar's Russia. So he should have waited for the Rebbe Marash. He didn't. When time he told the train to go. When the Rebbe Marash came, and the Rebbe Marash was very time sensitive, besides the fact he didn't live long, but he was everything was very short time. He was very careful with all his times, and he came, and he realized he missed the train. He was upset. It doesn't say he was upset, he was offended. And in a few weeks, or whatever it was, the conductor was fired from his job as the person in charge of the train from the main city in Petersburg, which ran the office of the railroad. The Rebbe says, in Petersburg, they don't know the whole story. It wasn't like it was reported back that the Rebbe Marash missed one train, and therefore they fired him. The Admon Marash was the Rebbe, Nasi Bistro, the head of the Jewish people. The job of a Rebbe, like a Moshe Rabbeinu, is between the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, is to be the person, is the Rebbe between Ben Havaya Beinechem. And Moshe says, I'm between you and God. Lahagid lechem, why? Divers Havaya, to tell you the word of God. In Yanihu Limsar B'chol Mokim, the job of a Rebbe is, wherever he's going, is to give over Hashlichus HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the mission of God, Shnimsra Yadi, that he was given to him, that he should give over to Klal Yisrael and to the world. And the job of the conductor was to help the Rebbe Marash do what he needs to do to get to where he needs to get to. If he doesn't wait for the Rebbe Marash and he sends the train early, and the Rebbe Marash has to wait whatever it is 2-3 days. It wasn't like the train was coming every 15 minutes. It wasn't the 3 train in New York. These are trains that probably came once a week or something like that. His job is to help the Rebbe Marash travel and get to where he has to get to. Not only didn't he help, he caused the confusion. And automatically, of course, he got fired. His job was to help the Rebbe Marash. If he doesn't help the Rebbe Marash, there's no point in him being in charge of the train. Even though in Petersburg they didn't know about all that. But that's the whole point. You're looking at the desert from a perspective of the world. The Rebbe says that when you start looking at the Midbar, the way you should look at the Midbar, that a Midbar is only a way for a Yid to be able to serve Hashem. So why would you think of it as a Midbar Gadol, as a great, overwhelming desert? At the end of the day, the people in Petersburg, they have to do what they have to do. So they're not making choices. They have to do what Hashem wants them to do. It doesn't make a difference what they know or not. What they do. Therefore, notwithstanding of them not being knowledgeable of the fact that they didn't keep that the Rebbe wasn't had to miss the train. They did what they had to do. That the person got fired because his job was to help the Rebbe Marash and he didn't. It's a harsh story, but that's the story. In general, the Rebbe Marash was awesome. It means like his whole demeanor, the Rebbe says, he was a very happy person, but everyone who saw him was fearful, Jew or non-Jew. He was mom, she gave off this fear. The Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe himself wrote the biography of the Rebbe Marash. He was a tremendous Rebbe. So when the Rebbe Marash came back to Lubavitch, then in those days, of course, they traveled by horse and buggy. Over B'darkoi Be'ira Achramava, if that's how you pronounce it. They went to a city, Achramava, I think. V'yatzu kol hagoyim, all the Gentiles, Taishrei Makim, the locals of that village, Yachidim Ziknim V'chashu V'ir, So the regular the townsmen and the people in charge of the city, the mayor, the other positions of importance of the city all came out. The status quo. Vikiblu b'chavid gadol. They came in the respect. They gave tremendous respect to the Rebbe Marash. Shahochel likrasei lechem umayim. They came to meet the Rebbe Marash with salt and bread, which was a sign of respect. And when they saw the Rebbe Marash, v'naflu lefanav alperkeim, they fell on their knees. V'nesia zu nasa gamachayne shal ad Marash, Rabbi Yishai Berlin. The Rebbe Marash had a nephew called Rabbi Yishai Berlin. Assuming we have to assume he lived in Berlin. V'omer la'ad Marash v'ispalis. When he saw this whole scene, they all came out from the village, and when they saw the Rebbe Marash, they all fell on their faces. In other places, the Rebbe tells the story that when they just saw the face of the Rebbe Marash, they were so overwhelmed by his holiness, they fell on their faces. He said to him in Yiddish, Vetter, uncle, look at the great respect they're giving to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe Marash looked at him and he said to him, Petach, for no better translation is idiot. What do you think? Who do you think it means? Blessed be the Jewish people on the nations. When the people of the city saw the Rebbe Marash, they fell on their faces. Okay, so that's the Rebbe saying a side note. That's the way a person should look at the world. The way the Rebbe Marash looked at the world. But when the person looks at the world and sees a great desert, you get overwhelmed by the world. He said, the world is big and I'm small. So therefore, what does he ask himself? When you get overwhelmed, when you see this, the whole world is big and I'm a small person in this world, as a Jew. So the person may say, Mi Yaakov kikotenu. How could I stand up? I'm small. Yaakov is small. For the very fact that you think that way, and you ask such a question. The fact that you give credit, so to say, credence to the world, that it's overwhelming. That's where you go. That's how you open the door and walk into the fact of Geulah, of exile. You're in exile now, because to you the world becomes an overwhelming space. What is Geulah? Helen v'Hester. The world's a place of concealment. And the world is going to tell you, the world has rules over you. That's the first step into Geulah. But a person remembers, you are the chosen people. And God elevated us. From all the languages. There is no situation or person that you're overwhelmed from. The Rebbe oozed this feeling of Gaon Yaakov, of strength. You say, you lifted us up above the nations. You're not subscribing to the concept of Geulah. There's no great desert that you're overwhelmed by. When God wants to and how He wants to, He's going to give you your livelihood. You don't have to compromise your Yiddishkeit. The Rebbe is getting to, it's not just a concept of question of feeling. It's a question of behavior. A person thinks that my parnasa, my livelihood, is dictated by what the world says. God gives you your livelihood. That allows for you to do your job the way that Torah says to do your job. You have your time for your classes and your shiurim and your Torah studies, and you're going to shul because the Torah says that's what you have to do, and therefore that decides your day. Not saying that what am I supposed to do? This is how things are. I can't learn anymore. I can't go to shul and davening because that's what my job dictates. And then once you start down this road, where you see you say, this is the fact. The world's a big world. I'm a small person. What do you want from me? You read in Yisefes, goes to the next level of descent. Not only is the desert a big wilderness, but it's also it's a fearful place. When you say something is large, it means it's bigger than me. I'm also somebody, but I'm smaller. I'm a smaller somebody. I'm a small person, but I'm a somebody. When a person gets fearful, and you're totally intimidated by the world. You think the world totally controls you, and you have no freedom. You're totally overwhelmed by the world. If you just see the world as a great wilderness, but it's not fearful. So when do you get overwhelmed by the world? When does the world become intimidating to you? The world becomes intimidating to you only when you come in contact with the world. And then you get overwhelmed by the world. Because you see it's big and you feel overwhelmed. But when you're in your space, you're a great Jew, because now I don't have to deal with the world. But when you're intimidated by the world, not just overwhelmed, but fearful of it, it affects how you are 24/7, even when you're not in front of the world. In the shul, you're intimidated. Be yeshiva, when you're sitting in the study hall. Even in your own home, you're intimidated. You're overwhelmed by the world and fearful of the world. You're scared for anyone to know you're a Jew. You don't put a mezuzah on your door. You don't walk around proudly with a yarmulke. You're fearful. Maybe someone's going to know. What are the people going to say? Oh, he or she's a Jew. I never knew that they're Jewish. And from there comes to the next problem. The Rebbe said, once you become intimidated and overwhelmed and fearful of the world, after lovely deer nesef is the next descent, the third level. Nachash, the effect of the snake. B'sefer erchai kinuyim isa. When it talks about what's the definition of a snake, scientifically even. Shenachash aras erseicham. He has a hot venom. V'hainu shemascheli hischamam v'lislaiv kochen zich. Means the first two stages are you in different levels, and you're fearful of the world in different levels, but the world is still not you. It's just overwhelming you. Comes the snake that bites you in this desert. And now what's the bite of the snake? The passion. You start getting passionate about the worldly things. Not only do you get overwhelmed by it, you start subscribing to it. You get excited in the heat of the world. The things that make the world excited, the narrative, the things that define what is a mensch, what is a person in the world, that's what you want to be. By days, when you start having a passion for the world, you can't balance that passion. You can't have an equal passion for God as you have an equal passion for whatever it is in the world that you have a passion for. You have so much passion. So if you're going to put it towards the world, you're not going to have it towards God. And then comes the fourth stage. Then not only have you diverted your passion from godliness to the world, to have passion for worldly things, you burn. The passion for the world becomes so strong to you, so important to you. It's burning so deep inside you. Not only does it lessen and divert your passion for holiness, he wants to burn out any possibility to feel passion for God. Because all my passion is only for world things. You want me to be excited about God? Why should I be excited about God? What's to be excited about God for? I'm excited about the world. It defines me as if I get into the country club or if I have this. And so it's Sarefes Legame Slavish Kedusha. It totally burns out the passion for holiness. And then comes the fifth level, Akrav, the scorpion. When it talks about what is the definition of a scorpion, Sharase Kar, it's the cold poison. It's even worse than the snake and the serpent. If you are at least an excited person, that you have passion about something, even if it's right now for the wrong things, and you burnt out your passion for God, but at least you're a passionate person. Although you have passion in the wrong places, totally burnt out any passion for God, and put all your passion into the world. Nevertheless, at least you're alive. Therefore, eventually, you're able to thank you, Judith. You're able to divert it, to hopefully do tshuva, and put your passion back towards God. Because you're alive. But if you become cold to everything in the life, which is the effect of the scorpion, what does it mean to be cold? Unfortunately, a person passes away. The body becomes cold. You're almost like a dead person. You're the living dead. Then you have a real problem. the concept about difference between a goat and a bull. But the point is that when you have, at least you have passion, so then you're alive, and then we could divert it. Like the Rebbe says about the Russia by the Seder. The Rush is a rush, but he's excited. He has something to tell you. You could do something with that person. When the person's cold about everything in life, not just about Yiddishkeit. He's just a cold person. Nothing excites you. So how are you supposed to? If you're not excited for this, you're equally unexcited for anything. So how could you ever get involved in Yiddishkeit? Then it becomes, you go to even a worse level. You could become a thirsty person. And the Rebbe is going to explain what that means in a second. That has no water. You don't even know where to find water. What happens? A person's come so low that God feels so bad for that person. Like we say, Avinu avarachim and rachim naleinu. We ask God for compassion, to have compassion on us. Wake us up, shake us up, because you know how our situation. So God has compassion for you, and there's a baskol. Let's say there's a voice from heaven. It's a concept of the baskol that awakens a soul. You don't hear it with your physical ears, but your soul's ears hears the baskol that happen every day. That's not just in the times of the Talmud. That's happening right now, and you pay attention to the voice. Chassidus teaches, and that baskol triggers a thirst because your soul starts to stir. But the problem is you're such gullus. You don't even know how to identify what this thirst is for. You're thirsty for something you don't know what. So if you don't know what it is, how are you going to go try to find water? Mayim, what's mayim? Zu Torah. You have a thirst for Torah. You just don't know that you have a thirst for Torah. You can't identify, what am I thirsty for? Hutzama, you're thirsty. He doesn't even know, or she doesn't even know what you're thirsty for. You've gone so far adrift, starting from the first pivot of looking at the desert as a big place. That you don't even know that it's possible that maybe what I'm thirsty for is holiness. The Rebbe says, where does this all start from? When you start giving space to the desert. When you start thinking, as Hamidbar Olam, that you look at the world as a big place and you're a small person. Zui Ashliva Rishoni, that's the first chain. The Chola, you read this for all the descents. Until you could, God forbid, reach the level where you have a thirst and you don't even know, you don't even know what you're thirsty for. So the Rebbe says, what do we say in the beginning of the talk? That the point of it all is that when you know this is the situation, when you could identify it, then you know what what you're dealing with. This is understood. You read this, how do you fix all these descents? You have to start from the beginning. Shehi Taikev Bayadis means that this fear that you had for the desert, for the world, you have to be a strong Jew. Because you remember, you're a chosen person. You've been elevated. And then we could get out of the Geulah. We walk this back. We go to the land of good and plenty. With Mashiach b'meher speed in that time. Afterwards, the Rebbe said the Maimer on the pasuk Vayu Eikev Tishman, and the Rebbe continues. We're going to learn a little bit. We have a few more minutes. Let's go a little further. The Rebbe said like this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this Sicha was said. Was said after there was a big terrorist attack in Kfar Chabad in 1956. I believe how much people were murdered while they were davening. And the Rebbe sent to be Mechazik Eretz Yisrael, he sent Shluchim, that they should go and give strength to people feeling very down. So the Rebbe says the Shluchim are now in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Tov Rechav. V'achacham, the Rebbe said, Benigel the Inyan HaGol Shekasiv Mitar Belashim Midbar Gadol Ner Nacher Sarf Akrav Itzman Shemamayim. Contrary to the idea of Golus, of exile, which the Torah says, what's the exile? A great, fearful desert, snakes, serpents, scorpions, and thirst that you don't have water. That's the desert. But what does it say about Eretz Yisrael? The contrary. Eretz Chita, Saora, Gefen, Te'ena, Rimon, Eretz, Zeis, Shemen, Udvash. That's the desert. What's Eretz Yisrael? Eretz Yisrael is the land of the wheat and the barley and the grapes and the figs and the dates and the olives and the rimon and the pomegranate. Shepratim elu hem kineged pratim yanim demidbar gadol v'noira nacher sarv akar b'sman Hashem moyer. The Rebbe says they go contrary to each other. The land of the seven fruits that Yisrael is blessed with, their ways of fixing the problem of the desert. Worse than the snake and the serpent is the scorpion. Given shikririus, because coldness. Tchunase shel akrav, which is the definition of a scorpion. Moiral hedachadis means you're not alive. You're cold to everything. You're not responsive to anything. You can't get excited about anything. You can understand this based on the teaching of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. That they asked once, they came to the Baal Shem Tov and they said, how could Chasidim daven the way they daven? That the Chasidim, when they daven, they shuckle, they shake. People found that to be inappropriate. Why are you shaking when you're davening? They warfen sich. The Rebbe said in Yiddish, they throw themselves a bit. They're very expressive when they daven. They make signs with their hands, their body's jumping. That you should daven like a regular person standing there in the corner. If you're standing in front of a king, stand like a king. Like if you stood in front of a king, you wouldn't be jumping around and shaking and excited. You'd stand without making a movement. So how did the Chassidim daven this way? So the Holy Baal Shem Tov answered, an example, when a person's drowning in the river, God forbid. No one's lying in a river or a pool or in a lake or an ocean, drowning and just going to sit there because it's not appropriate for me to move my hands, maybe to help myself save myself, maybe bring awareness to others to help me save me, because it's not ladylike or it's not gentlemanlike to move your hands around. You're drowning. Of course, everyone drowns. God forbid, anyone who drowns, God forbid, is going all over the place. And even if the person who's standing by the river, on the side of the river, watching this person drown, Chayshiv thinks I don't think he's making the right movements. I think really, if you're drowning, I would appreciate if you made different movements. No one would say such a stupid thing. You wouldn't be asking questions. Why? Because the person's drowning. What do you want from them? When you're drowning in a river. It affects your need to live. So you're going to do whatever movements you do. A person can't say, I disagree with the movements you're making as you're drowning. I think you should do other ones. You can't exactly say, 1 second, let me see, what's the best way to drown? Maybe I should make different movements that's not so offensive. When a person comes to daven, God is your source of life. I'm not talking about just physical life. I'm talking about spiritual life. And you feel like you're drowning. You're not going to say, 1 second, how can I make the movements that God's going to really not, get offended by my drowning? And a person knows if you take the person out of the water, like the fish, like the Rabbi Kiva says, the fish out of the water, you don't live. A person knows that your life depends on it, your spiritual life depends on it. With all your might, you can't be cold and calculated and say, it's not appropriate for me to maybe daven this way. If you're feeling like you're drowning, you're drowning. A person drowns, they make movements. Maybe it looks weird to other people, but too bad, the person's drowning. But if you're going to stay, and the Rebbe says on the contrary, if you're cold during davening and you're conscious of your movements and fanandri climate, you're thinking about how am I davening, am I moving right, am I shaking too much? You're not davening right. You're not drowning in the waters of Torah and Yiddishkeit. The Rebbe says maybe it's not just that you're missing the all your might, maybe you're missing a lot more than all your might. When a person is just cold and calculated, a cold-minded person, is you're not spiritually alive. Yes, maybe it looks weird for a person to be davening all over the place. At least that person's alive. And the first descent is coldness. Because the Alter Rebbe says, when he talks about his Hasidim, he said, the smallest of you give life. Even if you're a small chassid, but be alive. Resurrect the dead. That you could resurrect your own intellectual dead. Even if you're on an intellectual level. And as an intellectual, you should be kind of calculated and reserved. The Rebbe says, if you learn chassidus, even on the smallest amount, you're going to be able to resurrect even your brain and to not be so calculated and cold. I'm going to stop over here. The Rebbe continues to talk about the different ways in avodah with the other animals and the other ideas of the desert. Everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and a Nechama Shabbos, a Geulah Shabbos. We'll see you all in the next class. Take care.